Hey there, Andrew here with South Appalachian weather, May 26th, 2026, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time as I'm recording this briefing. And if you've been in the region at all over the last week, especially the last 24 hours, we're talking about a flooding risk. We've actually got a flood watch in effect right now for our Georgia counties until 11 p.m. tonight. No flood watch in effect officially on the North Carolina side or in Polk County, Tennessee, but that decision is in the hands of the Weather Service. Keep an eye on the official alerts and official forecasts as we go throughout today and really the whole rest of this week into the weekend as we continue to see this possibility of flooding and flash flooding. Now, flash flooding is going to continue to be possible, like I said, through the end of the week. Now that the ground is saturated, we've had so much drought over the last several months that it's taken a while for us to get to this point. The thing is, though, now we are seeing the ground becoming saturated, or it is fully saturated, which means the rainfall starts to run off so much more than we saw earlier in this event as we were coming into it last week. That's actually the reason why I'm a little late getting this briefing out, because I was waiting to get this out until we were starting to reach that saturation point. And I misjudged it about by one day. I was planning on getting it out this morning, but we already started to get some flash flooding last night, as was evidenced by those warnings in Towns and Clay counties. We'll get to that here in just a second. But because we have reached this saturation point across most, if not all of our region, now we're going to start to see this risk of flooding and flash flooding much more dramatically as we continue through this heavy rainfall event and heavy wet pattern. Because, again, now that it's saturated, it doesn't soak in like it was up until about this point. Now, if we take a look at the maps, taking a look at just the 24-hour rainfall totals from yesterday, it really looks like it wasn't that bad. I mean, an inch of rain, an inch and a half of rain, like saw in portions of Blairsville or right there along Murphy Highway there, that 1.6 inches of rain. That's not too shabby, but that's not that much in the grand scheme of things until I show you the radar estimated rainfall amounts near Hiawassee and Shooting Creek yesterday. And that yellow hot spot there is pushing almost 3 inches total. And that really goes to show just how important using all these different tools at our disposal is, because it's very difficult sometimes to get accurate information about what's going on. Again, this is a radar estimate, but it does go to show that it's definitely more than that inch and a half that the rain gauges are showing this morning when they're being read. So what's going on is last night we had training thunderstorms that stretched from southern Towns County up into eastern Towns and eastern Clay counties. And because of that, the rainfall amounts just stacked and stacked and stacked on top again of that saturated ground. And that's why we saw some flooding of some roadways last night. And now, just because that's where it happened last night doesn't mean that's where it's going to happen today, but it could. So especially the far eastern end of our region is going to see a much more increased risk of flooding and flash flooding until we start to dry out next week when the pattern resets or changes. So keep that in mind if you are in those areas. Again, we're talking specifically about the communities of Hiawassee, from there over to Skagway, Swallows Creek, Bell Creek, Owl Creek, Eagle Fork, and Shooting Creek in Clay counties as well. Again, just keep that in mind if you're in those areas, that there's already been a lot of stacked rainfall. So if a training thunderstorm scenario happens today, tomorrow, as we head into the weekend, there's going to be it's going to stack up much quicker because it's already saturated. Now, today would also be a very good time over the next few hours, at least, while we've got a little bit of a break in the rain. It would be a very good idea to take some time, check your gutters, check your drainage. I'm saying this from personal experience because I literally had to take, I won't even call it a lull, because there wasn't a lull last night when I realized my own gutters were clogged. I waited until the thunderstorm passed because there's no reason to get struck by lightning, but I literally had to go up on the roof for a few minutes in the pouring rain and clear the gutters, because oak bloom, which we had a tremendous amount of this year, oak bloom basically turns to concrete when it gets wet, or sludge. And you may have clogged gutters right now and not even realize it, because some of them were passing it, some of them weren't. So just take a little time, check your gutters, check your drainage, check your culverts, make sure everything's working right, because we're still in the midst of this very heavy rain and very wet pattern, at least over the next 5 days or so. I will say, as a quick side note too, I was very happy with this thing right here, this Midland GXT 6.7. And this is not sponsored. They're not paying me to say this. I'm just saying this. I had that on the roof with me, and it worked flawlessly in the rain. So they're not kidding about the waterproofing on that thing. We use walkie-talkies a lot around here. Just, again, spotty cell service, all of that. But I was very, very impressed with how that thing handled itself. I know it's waterproof, but it's always cool to see it. So speaking of radios, though, good transition. If you don't have a working desktop weather radio, definitely today would be a good day to get one. They are in stock at the Lowe's in Murphy, should be in stock at the Lowe's in Ellijay as well. So definitely, if you need one and don't even have time to get one shipped the next couple days, stopping in there might be worth a shot just to get one. Because if you're in a low-lying area, a weather radio is going to be your best bet on getting warnings. You want to have the cell phones, you want to have other alternate ways, but getting a working weather radio programmed is really a good idea, especially as we're working our way through a scenario like this. If you're in low-lying areas, again, near creeks, near rivers, be ready to seek higher ground if necessary. And again, all of us, regardless of whether we're on a riverbank or high on a mountain, check your gutters and drainage, because you don't want it stacking up and backing up somewhere that you don't want it to be. In closing as well, Cocorahs, which I already showed the map, Cocorahs. Take a look at their website if you're interested, because you saw, in fact, I'll bring it back up one more time, how relatively sparse that map is of rain gauges. That information gets reported directly to the Weather Service. That information is used by scientists, it's used by forecasters like myself to get a much more accurate idea of what's going on. And you can help directly by being part of that. Check them out. Again, none of this is an ad. None of this is paid advertising. But all of this is a good way to be better prepared. And in the case of Cocorahs, to also help the official sources know what's really going on the ground. So we're going to get through this. Again, we'll be all right. But just got to work our way through this very wet pattern that's reminding us that we are a rainforest around these parts. But just keep in mind, keeping an eye on what's going on, and please heed any official warnings, any official advice, any road closures. You don't want to tangle with flooded roadways. It's a good way to have a serious problem. But we'll get through it. I'll throw another briefing out if anything significant changes, but pretty much this pattern is going to stick around through this weekend, so Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll start drying out as we head into next week.